Hello dear creatives, welcome to Classy by Mavi. In today's tutorial, we'll be learning how to draft this beautiful bustier gown with side ruffles. So we'll be learning how to draft it exactly the way you see it displayed on the screen. We'll also be having the sewing tutorial. However, because the tutorial was too long, I divided it into drafting and sewing. So in this video, you'll be learning how to draft it, okay? Now, the gown also has an outer neck, a ruffled outer neck, so we'll be doing all of it. So here with me are my pattern papers and my pattern tools. I also have my tape rule here, okay, my tape measure, which I'll be using to measure. And now we are starting with the drafting process right away. So in front of me, as you can see, I have my pattern paper and I've inserted 2 lines on it. I will explain the lines. On this first line here, it is my shoulder line, okay? I just came down by 1 inch from the edge and then I marked the line so I can get a straight line. So I have my shoulder line, and then though I will not be making use of the shoulder in this drafting, right, but we will need the line so that we can get all our measurements from the line. So all our measurements will be coming from the line. I will insert all the necessary measurements before we proceed, okay? So let me explain how we got the second line. I'm here sketching a human. I want you to understand how we got our overbust line. Some of you might already know how to get your overbust, but I just want this illustration. I'm just doing this illustration so that our beginners will also follow, okay? So here I've sketched this human from here, from the shoulder to on top of the bust, okay? I hope you can see from the shoulder to on top of the bust. That is the overbust. For me, that measurement gave me 7, so I marked the 7 to get my straight line. I took the line to the back, okay? So the shoulder line and the overbust line all went straight to the back. So next, I'm inserting my armhole depth. The armhole depth is usually calculated by dividing your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5 plus 1 inch for shoulder slope, okay? So the formula is bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. Now you now add 1 inch for your shoulder slope. So for me, my bust circumference is 36. 36 divided by 6 gives me 6 plus 1.5 gives me 7.5 plus 1 inch for shoulder slope gives me 8.5. So I am marking the 8.5 here. So I'm inserting it also on this side, since my chest line or my armhole depth runs through both back and front, and now I am linking it together. So now let me label. Here is our shoulder and here is our overbust line, like I already mentioned, our overbust, and here is our chest line. Okay, so we have labeled those 3 lines. So the next line I'm inserting is shoulder to nipple point. That's shoulder to bust. So for that one, you measure from your shoulder to your nipple point, okay? For me, that measurement is 10 inches, so I'm inserting 10. For this particular measurement, I'm not taking it to the back due to the fact that there is no bust at the back. Can you see? I'm stopping somewhere, okay? So here is our bust line. Now, we are now moving on to our under bust line. So for the under bust line is this point, shoulder to under your bust. Can you see? Under your bust, okay? So that's how you measure it. For me, that measurement is 13 inches, so I am inserting that. I marked. The under bust line also is not going to the back, just like the bust line. So you can see what I'm marking. I will insert a straight line also. Then I will label it UB, under bust, okay? Next is our waistline. The front and back half length is not the same. So the front half length is 17 inches. So this is how it is. Let me just sketch this human beyond this point so you can see the waistline. So this is the waistline. Here is our waistline, okay? So from shoulder to this point is 17 inches on my body. So when you are measuring it on your body, you go under your bust and pass to that point. Okay, you don't just keep your tape straight. The tape must enter under your bust so that you get it right. Okay, that's the reason why the back is usually shorter than the front, because there is no bust at the back. So I've also inserted that line. You can see how we are progressing. So the next thing we want to do is to insert our hip line, our hip rise. Okay, to insert our hip line, right? So we are imputing our hip rise measurements. So here is our waistline. The hip rise measurement is simply from your waist to your hip. Okay, you measure from your waist to your hip. For me, that measurement is 10. So I am marking 10 inches so I can get my hip line. So we also have our hip line. Okay, so next we'll be inserting our full length. For the full length, I'm working with a length of 34 or 34.5. Okay, so as you can see, the 34.5 exhausted the pattern already, so we just use this as our M. Okay, now we'll be marking our dart line across the pattern. We'll be using our bust span measurement. Bust span is simply from one nipple point to the other. For me, from here to here, that is the bust span measurement. For me, the measurement is 6.5. So 6.5 divided by 2 gives me 3 1/4. So on the over bust line, I'm marking 3 1/4. I'll now come to the under bust line, mark 3 1/4. This I'm doing so I can get a straight line, because I want to take the dart leg across the pattern. Okay, the dart line across the pattern. So look at me here on my hip line. I have marked 3 1/4 also. Then on the hemline, I'll also mark 3 1/4. Okay, as you can see, I'm done marking also on the hem. I'll now use my straight ruler to connect all the points I just marked to get my dart line. So we are done marking our dart line, as you can see. So to start inserting the darts, we are doing it on the waistline. Okay, so on the waistline, we'll be inserting a dart intake of 1 inch on both sides, which is a total of 2 inches. Can you see? Okay, now after that, we'll be linking it to the bust point. Okay, beautifully. So just watch how I'm doing it. Just take it straight to the bust point so that you can actually cut out and do your alterations. Can you see? So we have linked to the bust point directly. Now on the hip line, here is our hip line. Okay, I know you remember how we got it. Waist to hip 10, that's what we inserted to get here. So here is our hip line. I've labeled it, and here is our hem line. Okay, so you don't forget. So from the hip line, you go up by 3 inches and then link to the dart legs. Okay, so from this point, you are linking the dart legs to meet here, like this and like this. So we are done inserting our front darts beautifully. So the next thing we want to do will be doing our over bust and under bust tightening, but we'll be starting with the over bust tightening. So for the over bust tightening, I am marking 1 inch on each side. You can do less than this. You can do 3/4 inch. It's still fine. Okay, so but I marked 1 inch on both sides. Now after marking the 1 inch from the bust point, I'll go up by half an inch from this bust point. Okay, I'll insert my tape and mark half an inch upwards so that the bust area will not be too sharp. Okay, so that's the essence. I've marked that half an inch, so that's where I'll be linking the tighten bust area too. So watch me. I'll place my curve ruler accordingly. Just watch what I'm doing. Okay, I have placed it and I am linking from that 1/2 inch. Can you see? From this point, I'm linking it like this. Okay, my marker ink is actually floating, so that's why you see it spreading there, but it doesn't matter. Just try and get the points I'm making right. So on this other side I did the same thing. Okay, can you see now that there is no sharp bust? Okay, everywhere is okay. Now to our underbust tightening. Before we do our underbust tightening, we'll be inserting. You need to measure around your underbust, right? Okay, under your bust you measure it around first. For me, mine is 29 inches divided by 2 gives me 7 1/4. So before we now insert that measurement and get our underbust right, we need to insert all our circumferential measurements. Okay, first we need to insert our bust circumference measurements, then our waist circumference measurements, hip circumference measurements, and link before we'll be knowing what we'll use to tighten the underbust. Okay, so let's start with the bust circumference. The bust circumference is what we'll be inserting on the over bust line. Mine is 36 inches. So I am here marking 9 divided by 2. Okay, I'm making it 37. So 37 divided by 4 gives me 9 1/4. So I have marked it on the over bust line and on the bust line, and I have linked. Can you see? So the next measurement I'm inserting is our waist circumference measurement. My waist circumference is 28 inches. 28 divided by 4 gives 7. Now I will add back the dart intake of 2 inches. So I'll first of all mark 7 and then I'll add 2 to bring me to 9. I've marked 7 here. So plus that intake of 2 inches, we are here. So I will link it like this accordingly. Okay, I hope we are following. Now the next measurement to be inserted is our hip circumference measurement. My hip circumference is 42 inches. 42 divided by 4 gives 10.5. So I'll simply mark 10.5 here and link it back to the waistline. So after marking the hip line, I'll go up by 1 inch to get a straight line on that area so that I will not have a pointy hip also. And then I'll use my curve. Okay, I'll place my curve beautifully. No, this placement is wrong. Okay, can you see? I have corrected it. The side that's on the hip area should be the most curvy part. Okay, so I have linked it to the waistline. Okay, now I haven't done this. The next thing we want to do, we'll go back and do our underbust tightening. So what we are targeting is 7 1/4. If you can remember, 29 divided by 4 is 7 1/4. Okay, so that means this underbust line here should give us 7 1/4 without the dart. Okay, it should give us this point here to here and here to here should give us 7 1/4. Anything more than that is what we'll be removing so that we'll have our underbust well tightened. Okay, now let's measure from here to here. Is giving us 2 3/4. Okay, it's giving us 2 3/4. So let's take that again. Okay, so from this part to this center front area gives us 2 3/4. Okay, and then we'll omit the dart and cross over to the other side and measure. Okay, measuring the other side gave 5.5. 5.5. Okay, here to here 2 3/4, here to here 5.5. So 2 3/4 plus 5.5 gave us 8 1/4. So this entire underbust line that we see here on this flat pattern without the dart is giving us 8 1/4, but we are looking for 7 1/4. So that means we'll be snatching the underbust by 1 inch. Okay, so on this side I'll be marking 1/4 inch. Now we are left with 3/4 inch. So on this other side I'll be marking 3/4 inch. So 3/4 plus 1/4 gave us the 1 inch. Okay, now I'll drop down from the bust point by 1/2 inch also, just like I did for the over bust tightening. I'll be dropping down by 1/2 inch. Then I'll use my curved ruler to also curve it beautifully. First I'm curving to the side, then next to the center. Can you see? Just watch what I'm doing. Okay, so our bust area is not sharp, it's just beautiful. Then I'll link it to the waistline like this and like this. Okay, so we are actually making progress. Also, the back and front half lengths are not always equal. For me, my back half length is 2 inches shorter, so that 2 inch difference is what I'll use to create my bust dart. So I have marked 2 inches from the bust line down, and I'm linking beautifully to create my bust dart. So by the time this bust dart is closed, the back and front half length will become equal. Okay, so we have our darts. I'm striking out the darts now. For the hip to the hemline on the side, you just go straight. Okay, if you want a very straight and beautiful line, you can as well go to your hip line and mark your hemline and mark your hip circumference divided by 4. Okay, so that your line will be straight. Okay, so I have marked, and our front pattern is almost ready except for the armhole area. Okay, now to create our armhole, you'll be inserting your across front measurement. Okay, to measure your across front, you come down from your shoulder by about 4 to 5 inches and measure across. Okay, the part that your arm is joined to your body. Okay, so you just measure across that point. For me, on my body, it is 13 inches divided by 2 gives me 6.5. So I'll be inserting that 6.5 on my over bust line I have marked. Then for this that I took out to create my over bust, I'll be adding it back. Okay, so I added back 2 inches here and marked. Now I'll use my tape measure, my hip curve, to link it down to my armhole depth. That's the chest line. Can you see what I just did now? Okay, so my armhole has also been beautifully created. Okay, so now our front pattern is ready, it's completely ready before we do our alteration. However, before we cut out, let's go over to the back and draft the back. So the back already have its lines, the chest line and over bust line. Now I am here inserting the back half length. As you already know, the back half length is 2 inches shorter. That makes it 15 inches. So I am marking the 15 inches for back half length. So I have marked, you can see the difference between back and front half lengths. Okay, so the dart will take care of it. By the time the dart is closed, the back and front half length will become equal. Okay, so here is the waistline for the back. I have labeled it. The next thing you want to do will be inserting a dart line for the back. So the dart line for the back will also be inserting a bust span measurement 3 1/4. Okay, this is because of the style. I usually have another method I use to create my dart line for the back, but for this particular style I am using the bust span measurement 3 1/4. So on the chest line, I marked 3 1/4 and dropped down by 1 inch. Okay, so this your dart line will be stopping 1 inch below the chest line. Now I have marked 1/2 inch on each side of the dart. So for the back, I'm using 1 inch dart intake. Can you see? And I have linked it to that point, 1 inch below the chest line. Next, I'll be inserting my circumferential measurements for the back. So first, I'm starting with the bust circumference, which is 9 1/4. I'm marking it on the over bust line. and also on the chest line. Okay, 9 1/4. Now to the waist circumference, it is 7, that's 28 divided by 4. I mark 7 and then I'll add back the 1 inch dart intake, which brought me to 8. Okay, and then I'm linking the points beautifully. Can you see? So the next thing I want to do, I'll be inserting my hip line. Okay, for the hip line, you already know the same thing with the front. You come down from the waistline by 10 inches, which is your hip rise measurement, waist to hip. So I'm inserting that measurement now, and then I'll link with a straight ruler as usual. But before linking, I'm here measuring the full length for the back. You know, the full length for the back will be a little shorter now, since we'll be closing the front dart. So I have marked it, and I've also linked the points together to create my hip line. And here I am creating my hemline for the back. Okay, so having done all of this, I'll be extending the dart leg to the hip line. Okay, or before then, I'm here marking my hip circumference, which is 10.5. I have marked. I'll also come down to the hem and mark the same thing and link all the points beautifully. I'm here linking my hip. As usual, I'll go up straight by 1 inch first. Can you see? So it is from that point that will link with to the waistline, so that the hip will not appear too sharp. Okay, having done that, I'll now take it straight to the hem. You can as well insert your hip circumference measurement here, so your line will be very straight. Okay, so next we'll be inserting the bust span on the hip line, the bust span measurement of 3 1/4 on the hip line, just to extend our dart leg. Okay, I've linked it and our dart leg has been extended. So from the hip line, you go up by 3 inches and then link it to your dart legs. Can you see? Okay, so that's how you do it for the back. You're done. You also bring down this dart line to the hem line, exactly the way we did it for the front. Now the next thing for the back is to insert a cross back measurement, just like we did for the front. Okay, but before we do the across back, we need to tighten the over bust for the back also. Can you see? I am raising the dart line to the over bust line. After you do that, you insert a dart intake of 1/4 inch on both sides. 1/4, remember, because the back has no bust. You are careful how you do this, and you are linking it straight to the waistline. Okay, there is nothing like under busts on the back, so you are linking that 1/4 inch straight to the waistline. I have done that, so we can now proceed to our back tightening first before the armhole drawing. So for the back tightening, you tighten your center back by 1/2 inch. You mark 1/2 inch on the center back waistline like this. The essence of this back tightening is so that your zipper can lay very flat. Okay, and you will link it to the over bust line or the chest line. Okay, and then from the hip line, you come up by 3 inches, just like you did for the dart leg, and you link it back to the tightened waistline area. Okay, so we are done tightening our back. We can now freely move to the armhole area by inserting our across back measurements. Okay, just the same way you measure for the front, you also measure it for the back. For me, that measurement is 14 inches, so 14 divided by 2 is 7, and I'm here marking 7 inches. Now the dart intake of half an inch, just 1/4 on each side, should be added back, which will lead us to 7.5. okay, so having done that, I'll be linking that point to the chest line like this. Okay, can you see? So our pattern has been beautifully created. Now before we go ahead to do our ruffle or the side ruffle alteration, we'll be cutting out this pattern. Can you see what we are having now? So before we cut out the entire darts, we'll go ahead and do our side ruffle alteration. Okay, so you see the way I'm aligning the pattern, the hip area, the lines are the same from the hip to the arm, the back and front are equal. Okay, so by the time we close our bust dart or side darts, the entire pattern will be equal. Okay, now I am marking from the waistline. You mark 3 inches down, then from the dart line you mark 7 inches down. Okay, 7 inches brought me here, and you now link it with a curve. You can use a curved ruler, but for me, for the curve to be beautiful, I use my free hand first to place a dotted line like this before I now finished it up using my curved ruler. It's like blending it together or blending it in. Okay, now this is it. Can you see what we have got here? We'll be doing exactly the same thing for the back. So from the waistline of the back, you come down by 3 inches. Then from the dart line, you come down by 7 and you link accordingly. Can you see? Now we are done. The next thing we want to do in this alteration is to insert our slash lines. Okay, this is in no particular order, but I did 6 slash points. Okay, so after inserting all the slash lines, I'll come back and label the slash lines. Okay, now I'm labeling it F1, F2, F3. So by the time I want to arrange it, by the time I have slashed it out, I will not confuse where to place which part of the pattern. Okay, so on cutting it out, we'll be arranging it directly on the fabric, so we will get it perfectly right, and we'll spread it as wide as we want. So I'm inserting lines also on the back. I'm trying to get the same 6 slash points. For the back, I'm labeling B1, B2 to B6. I'm in B4 now. Here is B5 and here we have B6. So can we see? This is where our ruffles will be forming out from. Okay, now we'll be cutting out this part, the part will be ruffling. I'll cut it out before we proceed to cutting out our bustier. So here we are having this. By the time we are transferring to fabric, you know exactly how we are going to use it. So we'll be slashing all the lines. Okay, open and spread it out on the fabric. Before then, let's also cut out our bustier pattern. Watch me as I cut out the bustier pattern so you don't miss any points. Here we are done cutting out, and we'll be closing our bust darts like this. Okay, can you see? So by the time we close our bust darts, the back and front will become equal. Okay, so you close it like this and use your masking tape to mask it to stay. Okay, Here we have our center front. So this is our center front, CF, and this is our side front. So let's now cut out our back also. Watch me. We are also done cutting out our back. Here we have our side back. We have our side back and we have our center back. The area where the zipper will be fixed is the center back. So you indicate with whatever you can. I've written Z there, Z, letter Z, and also SB, CB, center back. So our patterns are complete. Can you see? So these are the patterns we'll be transferring to our bustier parts of the gown. Welcome back, dear creatives. So as you can see, we have our front and back altered patterns for the ruffle here, and as you can see, I've also slashed open all the lines. Okay, so they are open now. Before we start using them, I'll be spreading my pattern paper here. So for this style, I am using a denim and an African print fabric. So this African print fabric will be for the ruffles. I got 2 yards of the African print fabrics, and then the denim fabric was 1 yard. So the total I used for this style is 3 yards. So here I am folding the Ankara print fabric for as long as I want. I want the ruffles very full, so I'm making it long. Okay, can you see I'm folding it? So after folding it, I'll now get my slash lines and place them accordingly after marking the midpoints. Okay, so the 6B and the 6F, F6 and B6, they are together here. Can you see? Then from the 5, I'll be spreading out. But first of all, let me just place all together. Okay, trying to target the hip line so that I know that they are all straight. You place them together first before you start spreading them out. As you can see here, I am done. So I'm now spreading it out. Okay, you spread it out with at least a difference of 3.5 inches from each other. Okay, they should be apart from each other by at least 3.5 inches if you want your ruffles full. Okay, and if you have enough fabric. So that's what I'm doing. And as you are doing that, you ensure that the hip line, okay, the hip line is parallel to each other. That's when you know that you are placing them correctly. So I have moved the B5 to 6. Now I am moving the F5 to 5 to 1. I'm now moving the F5 to 1 also, taking the 1 first, 2 follow, just like that. Then the F6 and the B6 are still together. If you don't have enough fabric, you can just cut out like this. Okay, you just go in there and then mark the points you cut out. Just the way I've spread out is okay, is fine. You just give half an inch sewing allowance on the upper part and mark it across like this to the end, and then you cut out. Okay, but for me, I'll still spread out further. Just be watching me. And also I'm targeting my pattern. Okay, so I am shifting the slashed points forward. Okay, I'm shifting it for upwards so that I can get the part of the fabric I am targeting very well. Now after arranging them upwards, targeting my fabric, I'll still go further and spread out, right? But for now, I am cutting. But when I realize that I have enough fabric, I'll spread out the center, this front and back number 6 that are together. Okay, so I have realized that I have enough fabric, so I'll come here and spread them out so that I'll have something like a bulge. Okay, something like a bulge at that side area so that it will be fuller and finer. Okay, so I am here spreading it out accordingly. I'll spread out and I'll push the ones at the edge closer to the edge. Okay, so that I'll have a meaningfully spread out pattern on the center. Okay, just watch me. So these two are apart from each other by 3.5 inches now. So all of them just like that. So if I follow this pattern now and cut out, I'll have that bulky effect on the side. I think the word is bulky. So I'm continuing to cut. I'll just follow the shape and cut out every part. So we now have exactly what we want. We can now remove our pattern papers. Okay, so I have removed the pattern papers. You insert your notch at the center so that you know which parts will go to your side. Okay, so by the time you ruffle it, this is how it's going to be. Can you see? So we are done cutting out our ruffles. We'll now keep them aside and cut out the bustier. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm using a denim fabric for my bustier. This denim fabric has been with me for only God knows how long. it's up to a yard. So I have placed it on fold, and this is my center front. The center front is to be aligned to the folded part of the fabric. When you are doing yours, make sure to pin down at this point so that the pattern does not move. Okay, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'll be using these heavy weight scissors to just make it stay in place while I cut out. Please don't omit pinning, okay, because that gives you a more precise finishing. So as I am cutting, I'm adding half an inch for sewing allowance. Okay, half an inch sewing allowance. I'll just follow that method and take it to the end. So for the center front, you just add only half an inch sewing allowance. So I'm done cutting out the center front pattern, and I'm inserting a notch on the underbust area. So by the time I want to join, it will be very easy for me. Okay, and then also on this point where I'll be attaching it to the ruffles. Okay, I've also added a notch there. Okay, so mind you, the underbust and the parts you'll be attaching to the ruffle are the parts you are notching. I'm keeping the center front aside now, and then I'll also do the same thing and cut out the side front. So for the side front, on the side, I'll be marking 1 inch sewing allowance. Okay, then on the bust area, the parts that I'll be attaching to the center front, I'll be marking half an inch sewing allowance. So here we have our side front also cut out beautifully. So by the time we want to sew, this is how it's going to look like. Okay, just like this and like this. Can you see? So this is how we are going to be joining it after placing our padding, cutting out our facing. So we'll get to that. Before we get to that, let's go on and cut out the back also. Okay, and here we also have our back pattern beautifully cut out the same way. So for the back too, for the back we have the center back 1 inch for zipper allowance, then the side area 1 inch for sewing allowance. Then the part that we are joining the side back and the center back together is 1/2 inch sewing allowance. Okay, so we have it like this in twos, zipper allowance here, and then we also have this. Let me cut out using my scissors. Okay, so we have this for the back. This part will be attaching our ruffles. Now it's time for us to cut out our facing for the front. So these are our front patterns. At this point, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and then turn on your notification bell, because the sewing of this video, the sewing part of this video is what we'll be posting next. If you don't subscribe and turn on notification, you might miss the sewing part. Okay, so please do well to do that. Now, as you can see, I am cutting out my facing. For the center, I'm cutting out without folding it. I'm cutting it directly. So for the facing should be below your underbust. Okay, it should be below your underbust, because what you are using to pad will be stopping at the underbust, and the facing should be long enough to cover your padding. Okay, so I have marked it out and I am here cutting out. So this is it. Now for the side facing, I'll be folding the fabric so that I can get 2 at once. Okay, after folding, I've also placed the side pattern, and I'm ensuring that it also drops at least 2 inches below the underbust, and I'm cutting out. So here we have our facings completely cut out for the front. So the fabric is a denim fabric, like I've mentioned earlier. It is thick, so I will not need any facing for our back. We will not be using facing, but for the sake of the bustier effects in front, this dress, you don't need to wear a bra on it. Also, it is just an alternate dress, so you need to pad the front, hence the need for the facing. So I'm using fiber to pad the front, so I'll be cutting out the facing on the fiber. So dear creatives, I've cut out the fiber for the padding. If you have any question on this, please drop in the comment section, or any other questions, so that during the sewing video I can answer the question clearly.